There's more misery, more frustration, anxiety, and grief because of improper relationships than any other single factor. We have more joy, however, more happiness, more excitement because of proper relationship than of any other factor. So relationships, obviously, because they start at the beginning of life and continue to the end of life, and because they involve us all of our life in between and determine our effectiveness with our family, with our friends, with our associates, with everybody else, relationships then are extraordinarily important, and having the proper attitude in those relationships are extremely important. Because you see, it is true that you can have everything in life you want if you will just help enough other people get what they want. As we look at relationships, let's very quickly review what everyone wants in life. Everyone wants to be happy. Everyone wants to be healthy. Everyone wants to be at least reasonably prosperous. Everyone wants to have friends. Everyone wants to have peace of mind. Everyone wants to be secure. Now, for those who have families, they obviously want to have good family relationships. Now, as we look at the 6 basics that everybody wants, let's look at the role that relationships play. All of the authorities will tell you that your health, to a very large degree, depends on how well you get along with other people. Everybody will agree that how happy you are depends to a very large degree on your relationship with other people. Many will tell you that your amount of prosperity is determined by a large degree as to how well you get along with others. Ohio State University, as a simple example, did a study of the 50 reasons that people lose their jobs. And they had to get to reason number 16 before it had anything to do with their technical expertise or their job skills. Their first 15 dealt with attitudes and their ability to cooperate with, get along with other people. Your relationship certainly will determine the number and quality of friends that you have. Your relationships will determine to a large degree just how much satisfaction and peace of mind you have. Your relationship will determine just how secure you are, because the most insecure feeling in the world is to know that you have no one who really loves and cares for you. And the most secure feeling, every time I see anyone who is ill, the first thing they talk about is whether they are alone or whether their friends and family have been supportive of them. And of course, the key to good family relationships is the way you get along with those people. In relationships, what I'm saying is, we never really know just how far we're going to influence not only that life or someone else's life. I accept full responsibility in our communications. If I do not communicate clearly to you, it is not your fault. I've always believed when somebody is speaking or teaching, if I don't understand, it's their fault. And the reason I say that, I believe anybody who understands their subject matter will be able to figure out a way to present it to me in such a manner that if I work, and if I accept my responsibility of learning and paying attention and really digging into it, that if then I do not learn, I believe the teacher's got to carry the major share of the responsibility. I want you to know that I accept that responsibility. A study was done in New York City a number of years ago on the self-made millionaires there. They selected 100 of them. And as they did their study, they discovered they had a tremendously varied background. They ranged in age from the early 20s to the late 70s. They ranged in educational background from about the 5th grade to one had 2 PhDs. Something like 60 or 70% of them came from towns of less than 15,000 people, for whatever that means. But the thing that they found that was absolutely consistent, that each one of them had in common, was that every one of them had the ability to see the good in other people and in other situations. So if we really start understanding that we need to be good finders and encouragers, then we've learned a very important lesson. Somebody said once, it's nice to be important, but it's more important to be nice. I believe that's true. If you're sincere, it's enormously effective. If you're insincere, it's manipulative. And you see, when you're manipulative, the manipulator will say and do things so that he or she can win. Today, Walter Haley is, quote, retired, about as retired or unretired as anybody on the face of this earth. He's busier than ever. He's a multi-millionaire, has friends everywhere he goes. He's what we call a happy miser. He saves every friend he makes. He believes you can never get ahead by trying to get even. I think he's right. The motivator understands that it's a win-win situation. You're not doing it for your benefit, you do it for their benefit, but when they benefit, you benefit. And we go right back to the whole concept that you can have everything in life you want if you will just help enough other people get what they want. The great lesson I learned was this: if you will treat everybody like they're hurting, you'll be treating the vast majority of them in the proper way. Relationships are so important. He said, in those experiences in life where we encounter people who are rude and mean and nasty and ugly to us, and that's going to happen in lots and lots of cases. He says when those things happen, what you've got to understand is they're not trying to hurt you when they're mean and rude and nasty and ugly. He said in 99% of the cases they're that way because they are hurting. And if we can understand that, you see, whether we are a salesperson who's just failed to get the appointment or just failed to make the sale, and our prospect maybe invites us to leave as quickly as possible, or whether we're in a management employee situation and we feel that the manager has been too hard on us, or if we in a peer situation and our peer has been maybe too hard on us, it will be so helpful in building winning relationship if we can understand that they don't want to really hurt us, but they're hurting themselves, and they're defensive and they'll lash out. Now, what does that do to our relationship when you go a little out of your way to do something for someone else? I believe that's the key. You know, the Bible says it in a lot of different ways. Best human relations rule of all, right there in the Bible. In the King James Version, it says, do unto others as ye would that they should do unto you, which I read the Children's Bible, International Children's Bible. It is written at the 3rd grade, 9th month level, which is more along with what I understand. And this version simply says, treat others like you want them to treat you. Now, you know, that's just so very, very simple. There's another verse in the Bible that says, be ye kind one to another, tender-hearted, forgiving each other. So enormously important in our scheme of things if we do it that way, isn't it? There's another verse in there that says, go the extra mile. If somebody demands of you your cloak, give him your coat also. If they demand that you go 1 mile, go the 2nd mile with them. So you can have everything in life you want. You'll just help enough other people get what they want. The bottom line that I keep getting to is, does it work? Now let me remind you, number one, you're what you are and where you are because of what's gone into your mind. And you can change what you are, you can change where you are by changing what goes into your mind. Number two, I would remind you that life is tough. I don't care what you do, whether you're a household executive, a salesperson, a manager, a school teacher, a physician, a minister. I don't care what it is that you do, life is tough. But when you're tough on yourself, life is infinitely easier on you. And the third thing I will say so many times is that you can have everything in life you want. You'll just help enough other people get what they want. It's still true that the best exercise is to reach down and lift someone up. It's also true that when you go looking for friends, you're not likely to find them. But when you go out to be a friend, you'll find them everywhere. Because you see, what you send out does come back. Now, ladies and gentlemen, that will work. I don't care where you are. Losers are basically described in this little parable by Charles Allen in his book, The Miracle of Love. He said, a fisherman told him that when you're crabbing, when you're catching crabs, that you do not need to put a top on the basket you put the crabs in. All you got to do is have this open basket, because he said when you put the second crab in there, anytime one of them tries to climb up, the other one will reach up and pull him down. Those are losers. Those are the people who are so insecure that they cannot really relate to somebody else being successful. They think in terms of somebody else being successful, that means they've got to be put down. They believe in the seesaw principle. The only way I'm going to go up is to put somebody else down. But if you'll notice, the seesaw is always up and down and up and down. And people who have that philosophy are going to be up and down, and mostly down. A little boy and his mother had a blow up one morning, and in a fit of anger, as small children often do, he said to his mother, "I hate you, I hate you." Then, realizing what he had said and fearing for his future comfort, he made a mad dash out of the front door, and they lived out on the side of a hill. And when he got out there, he was still all frustrated and bent out of shape, and he started screaming, "I hate you, I hate you." And the echo came back, "I hate you, I hate you." It frightened the little boy. He ran in and he said, "Mom," he said, "there's a mean little boy out there in the valley who says he hates me." And his mother says, "Yes, but there's also another real nice little boy out there that loves you. You go out there and tell him that you love him." And so the little boy ran out and he said, "I love you, I love you." And the echo came back, "I love you, I love you." It is so true, simple but true, that what you send out comes back. Bottom line, does the concept work? Answer, yes, the concept works. Well, I want to emphasize a point. The first responsibility of business is to make a profit. That's the first responsibility. Now, why is that? Very simple. If they do not make a profit, they go bankrupt. And if they go bankrupt, every employee there, including owners and managers, will be unemployed. We consider profit making extremely important. But management psychologist James Carr has this to say: when you are dealing with your employees, and it's a variation of the look for the good concept that we've talked so much about, his concept is this: you don't go around looking for things to catch your employees doing. He says go around looking for things you can help them do better, with directions and encouragement. That is the important thing. One more time, you treat people exactly like you see them, and they respond according to the way they're treated. But to build good relationships, when we learn the discipline of looking for the good, of being non-critical and non-judgmental, when we understand that you are throwing dirt, saying ugly things about other people, that you're not doing a thing in the world but losing ground. When we understand that, we get ahead. When we remember that a dog got to be man's best friend by wagging his tail and not his tongue, then we've taken another step towards winning friends and influencing a lot of people. I believe you are number one as far as the most important person in the world is concerned, and that is you. Best effort is all that is required. Not only to have an acceptable standard of living, but more importantly, an even more acceptable quality of life. I wonder how many outstanding people are right there inside of those we deal with every day. It's so easy to find fault, and some people find fault like there was a reward for it. But it is so much more important and so much more exciting and so much more beneficial to look for the good. Not only should we be careful about how we judge, but it emphasizes you really can't cheat anybody else. Now, the farmer was not obviously cheating on purpose. I doubt that the baker was cheating on purpose, or he certainly would not have had him in court. But a lot of times when we're so sure that somebody else is a crook and a scoundrel and a no good, what it encourages us to do is to investigate a little more carefully, take a little more time. Get on his or her side of the table. Look at it from their perspective. Many of our problems could be solved if we could learn to evaluate others in exactly the same way we evaluate ourselves. When the other person blows up, he's nasty. When you do it, it's righteous indignation. When he's set in his ways, he's obstinate. When you are, you're just being firm. When he does it like your friends, he's prejudiced. When you don't like him, you're simply showing good judgment of human nature. When he tries to be accommodating, he's polishing the apple. When you do it, you're using tact. When he takes time to do things, he's dead slow. When you take ages, you're deliberate. When he picks flaws, he's picky. When you do, you're discriminating. When he reads the right act, he's vicious and insensitive. When you do it, you're just being honest for his own good. Isn't it amazing how we set those double standards? Rare indeed is the person who can weigh the faults of others without putting his thumb on the scale. The 5 most important words: you did a good job. The 4 most important words: what is your opinion? One of the great friends makers of all time. 3 most important words: would you please? 2 most important words are thank you. Most important word is you, and the least important word is me. The way you see people is the way you treat them. A key in winning relationships is to let the other person feel important. Put them in a position where they are important, because, all people are basically important. And it's amazing how we can learn from those who apparently have nothing to teach. But there is one person who is smarter than anyone, and that's everyone. It is so good that it just has got to be true. But the point is obviously the same. We can learn if we are responsive and receptive and open from just about anyone. There is a sign, according to the experts, on everybody's chest. And the sign simply says, "Make me feel important." Now, the statement, "You can have everything in life you want if you'll just help enough other people get what they want," at this point might sound a little selfish. I obviously was not doing that because I expected to get a bigger scoop of ice cream. But she responded in the only way she could, say thank you. And I'm telling you that when you make people feel important, when you treat them as human beings, then you're going to be ahead of the game. I don't care what you're doing. People who build winning relationships say and do things to and for others. Now, I'm going to make a profound statement. I always tell my audiences when I'm about to make profound statements. As I said earlier, I do that because an incredibly high percentage of my audiences do not recognize my profound statements as being profound if I don't tell them in advance, and I just don't want you to miss this. I'm not the one who said it. Dr. Shal Sinha said that gossips and backbiters destroy themselves. Use a negative word on someone else and you feel some influence of that poison yourself. Make it a habit. Use it on lots and lots of people, and all of that poison accumulates, and it absolutely can be devastating. It's more than just a cliche that the best thing to do behind a man's back is to pat it. And easily the best way to remove a chip from somebody else's shoulder is to let him take a bow. Remember that you treat people like you see them. And those people who look down on others are generally living on a bluff. Ah, when we think about it, how true it is. A lot of people have gone a lot further than they thought they could because somebody else thought they could. We need to be an encourager. You never know when you throw the pebble in the stream or the lake, how far the circles are going to go. You never know how far it's going to go when we have a word of encouragement for somebody else, because the way you treat people can make a dramatic difference in the way they handle life. Now, please don't misunderstand. I'm not saying that all you got to do is say, I can. But I am saying this. I cannot help but wonder how many people have been consigned to a life of mediocrity because they were repeatedly told, you can't, you can't, you can't. The greatest good we can do for others is not just to share our riches with them, but to reveal theirs to them. Again, don't misunderstand me. I'm not saying that all you got to do is say, you can do it, and they will be able to do it. The question often comes up, or I might emphasize over on top of that by saying, they've got an infinitely better chance of doing it if you tell them they can instead of telling them they can't. In order to be fair, I believe we should give them the benefit of the doubt. Now, a lot of times people have either thought it or they've said it to me, now wait a minute, Ziglar, suppose my child does a lousy job. Suppose they drop the ball. Suppose they foul up. Suppose my employees don't do the job they're supposed to. Are you still supposed to brag on them? I think that's the worst thing you could possibly do. That encourages mediocrity. You see, she'd criticized the performance. It needed criticizing. But she had praised the performer because he needed the praise. I left with my self-image completely intact. I believe that's the procedure in building winning relationships with other people. When we do have to deal with a productivity factor that is unsatisfactory, a performance that is not up to standards, I believe we need to remember that we do not chastise or criticize the individual, but we deal rather with the performance of that individual. I believe that's the way to build more winning relationships. Help that person to be more productive. Help that individual to have a higher self-esteem and overall be best for everyone concerned. Maybe we can apply this application to it. Maybe when we are flying our highest, which is the purpose of this series, maybe that means that we are stretching and using resources that we've never used before. I want to emphasize something here, and I'll emphasize it before I get through. The picture you have of yourself is exactly the way you will perform. You cannot consistently perform in a manner which is inconsistent with the way you see yourself. As soon as they get broke enough, does not understand that there is something that is considerably worse than being broke, and that is being rejected. Had I understood early in life what I learned many years later, my career would have been much easier. See, people don't really reject you personally. They refuse the business offer which you make them. They would have refused it from anybody else too. But as I lay down, the words of my mother came back to me. Son, if you're in something, get in it. If you're not in it, get out. But folks, it's a basic fact of life. If people like you, they'll listen to you. If they trust you, they'll do what you request. You cannot perform in a manner which is inconsistent with the way you see yourself. In my mind, I was a national champion, and that's the way I was acting. I would say to you that you were designed for accomplishment. You're engineered for success. You're endowed with the seeds of greatness. I would remind you that since the beginning of time, there have been over 11 billion people to walk the face of this earth. But there never has been, and there never will be, another one just like you. You're rare. You're unique. You're different.
Please don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you all in the next video. Thanks, Alan.